I thought to myself, those SATs don't measure what really matters. Now granted, I'm not totally against testing. I believe that testing, when used appropriately to assess a student, among other factors, I believe that it has its place and it can be a good tool of assessment. But when you minimize a young person's work to a 3 or 4 digit number, I have a problem with that. And for me, I thank God that although I had gone through those moments of discouragement, I realized my worth in it all. I knew that what I had to bring to the table was bigger than a 3 or 4 digit number. I realized that what it takes to make it through college, faith, determination, drive, and yes, some level of academic and intellectual aptitude. I agree with that. But there are other factors that surround that impact one's ability to make it through. Faith, determination, a hard work ethic. And, you know, I had those things. And that was not measured by an SAT. So he told me to go back to DC and to stay in the area and go to a less rigorous school that could meet my needs. And I'm thinking to myself, well, you say you're one of the top schools in the country, I would think you're able to educate anybody. Stop going around bragging, talking about you're the #1 school and you turning people away. I couldn't believe it. I was angry. So I set out to prove that director wrong. Got back to DC, and I said, you know what, I'm going to apply to the Ivy League anyway. I don't care what he says. So I got the application to every Ivy League school, and, you know, went through the applications and looked at those application fees. I said, I need to cut this back some. And, you know, some were $60, some were $60, some were $70. I think one was $100. I thought, all right, this kind of money, let me narrow this down. And Brown University was the one for me. How in the world did I know Brown University would be the place for me? I don't know. I'd heard great things about it. Dr. Ross's daughter went there. She was fine. And, you know, I heard all these famous and impressive John F. Kennedy Jr. He attended Brown University. And I think it was Amy Carter attended Brown University. And, you know, I heard all these great things, and I heard of the fact I knew I just knew I would be getting a quality education based on its academic reputation. And I was excited that, you know, there were, of the Ivy League schools, it had the highest rate of ethnic minority students that attended, that they admitted, which I thought was great. And then there was that element of liberalism and academic freedom that came with it. And I felt like I had an ownership in my education. I felt like I would have that if I had attended, because they basically let you create your own curriculum and set your own path. And I thought that would be a cool place. And then also I got the view book, and the view book was pretty cool too. I saw that picture of one of the students sitting under the tree, reading a book, throwing a frisbee to his or her dog, working at the computer. I saw those pictures and I was excited, and I said, well, this might be the place for me. Let me apply. Never visited in my life. Never visited. But you know, when you think about it, you know, my endeavor to, and my journey to get to Brown University, it very much parallels, you know, those of our ancestors who came to this country, particularly those who came willingly. Somehow those that came willingly, in their heart, they knew that America, there was something there in this other world that they couldn't get where they were. And for me, I was yearning for something different. You know, I recently did a talk show where the topic was about the advantages of African Americans attending predominantly white institutions. And I thought about that. And I always tell young people, go where you're going to grow the most. If it means you're going to a state university that's predominantly white and you feel that's the best fit for you, go. If it means going to a historically black college, go. Only you know what your needs are. So you go where you feel your needs are going to be met and where you feel you'll have more opportunity to grow the most. Grow not just academically, but also socially as a well-rounded person and individual. So that's that's always been my philosophy. But the thing is, in my life, it's unique in that, I was reared in predominantly African American communities. I attended predominantly African American schools, still attend predominantly African American church. And for me, my mom has always been one who's encouraged me to reach outside of my comfort zone. You believe it or not, there are students in Southeast DC, in my neighborhood, students I had attended high school with, who had never been to the other side of the city to even tour the city with all of its vast resources because they were afraid. They were stuck in their mind. They were stuck and confined to a certain way of thinking and a certain community and a certain type of people. And I realized that for me, I didn't want to be confined. I wanted my scope on life and my worldview to be, I wanted it to be broad. And in realizing that that's something that I wanted, I had to grapple with the idea of, am I selling out by doing that? And I realized that I really was not selling out. In fact, growing up in every social context, in church, in school, in my community, I was raised, and it was clear to me, I'm a black man in America. And based on being a black man in America, there are going to be certain struggles that I'm going to have to face. Because the reality is we don't live in a colorblind society. The reality is, before I part my lips to say anything and meet anyone, they're going to first see what? I'm a black man. Isn't it pretty obvious, don't you think? I'm black. That's what they're going to see. So whatever stereotypes come with that, I'm going to have to deal with that. The reality is there are going to be instances where I am going to have to work twice as hard as my counterparts by virtue of being black. And I was raised to understand this. And I was strengthened as an African American male. One, because I had God. And without God, I'm nothing. And that became the root of my strength and fortitude and knowing who I am in God and in the world. Because when you know who you are in God, despite what people say to you, you know what God sees you as and how He sees you. And He holds us to the highest regard. Because our thoughts are not His thoughts. He thinks of us, but He thinks better of us sometimes than we think of ourselves.